All for your winner by unanimous decision, DDP, Dricus Du Plessis!
Ah, there it was, but it got blocked. Usman looks for the hook. Oh, good uppercut from Dricus again. And he ducks and shoots. Usman whiffs on the punches. Lands a shot there. Dricus covers well. He's good. Body shots from Usman. Oh, big right hook back from Dricus at the end. There you go. Usman had a little moment. There you go. Good for him. That's good little aura redemption there at the end to throw some shots. But yeah, Dricus beat the piss out of him for 5. It's tough. Great win by Usman's got his hands up. You ain't getting it, brother. Thank you for the 5. Genuinely a waste of DDP's time. I know. But great win, you know. Ref is extremely lucky Usman didn't win after he interfered in that potential finishing sequence in round 2. Holy Moses, Dricus wins. True. Yeah, you don't interrupt there, dude. That would have been a Dricus finish. That was a punch. Usman was as good as we thought he was. Can't deny. Here's my take on Usman, and here's what it's always been, chat. Fundamentally, in terms of skill, he's not very good. But his physicality and just his build and how tough he is has carried him through welterweight as one of the best, like, DNA bases that we've seen in the UFC for a long time. He's tough. At welterweight, he has power. He's strong. He's got cardio. But technically, as a fighter, he's never been all that, you know? The punches that he does, the kicks that he does, he's just very limited, you know? And Dricus fucking punished him for 5 straight rounds. Great performance by Dricus Du Plessis. Both our boys and unks, yeah.
Dricus Du Plessis dominates Kamaru Usman in a kind of sad but also very inspiring performance from both. And I'll get into why in a second. We also had standout performances from Chase Hooper, great submission. Tommy McMillan, Tommy the American Gangster McMillan. We'll talk about those as well. But what just happened? UFC Fight Night Oklahoma City, the breakdown. Let's go. All right, so like I said, let's start with the main event. Might as well. Dricus Du Plessis versus Kamaru Usman at 185 pounds. Kamaru moving up after a legendary career at 170. Fought everybody, beat a lot of people. Both these men have beat the current middleweight champion of the world. That just shows you how much parity's in the UFC right now. Best can beat best on any given night. Dricus obviously coming off the loss to Hamza Chimaev. A little bit of a layoff since then. Kamaru Usman coming off of another layoff, but also a big win over Joaquin Buckley over a year ago now, I guess, or maybe a year to the day. No, over a year ago. But regardless, you knew this was going to be an uphill battle for Kamaru Usman. Dricus Du Plessis is a massive middleweight. He is probably a 220-pound guy, and, you know, obviously, coming off the Hamzat loss, there were going to be adjustments there. Usman's 39 years old, you know, moving up from 170, and his main objective was to try to eliminate the standing back and forth, I would assume, from Dricus, or at least strike to get to grappling, none of which he was able to do tonight because Dricus was just as clumsy as he looks, as crazy as his strikes are, and as head-scratching as some of the techniques look to people. They work. I don't understand it. And then at some points I do understand it. It looked like a great game plan tonight, but some of the stuff he does doesn't look like it should make any sense. He almost looks like he knows how to not fight, but also doesn't know and still does fight. It's a very interesting style. Again, it's Dricus Du Plessis. He's one of the best in the world. It's just his style's unorthodox.
It's a little tough to get going. I took kind of like a thumb punch in the eye early on, and that kind of blurred the vision a bit, but you know, no excuses. It is what it is. It's pretty comfortable. Like I said, he's a big boy. And, you know, when you start seeing 2 of the big boys, and he's got kind of, like I said, it's a weird, rangy shots. So it's kind of a little delayed to get out of the way of those shots, you know, seeing them. But, you know, no excuses. It's tough to be on this side. I'm not used to being on this side. So, yeah, kind of sucks.
Do you feel better at 185, or are you happy to go back down to 170?
Like I said, it doesn't matter. I can make both. It's not 170 is a cut, but it's at the end of the day, I'm not the biggest welterweight. So, you know, it is what it is. You deal with it. If there's opportunities there, I'm going to go there. If the opportunities up here, I'm going to stay here. So there's really it doesn't matter. You know, it's just It sucks that I wasn't victorious tonight because we're having a complete conversation, different conversation, had I went out and been able to execute the way that I wanted. So I guess this is my time of not being able to execute like I've done to most guys.
I don't know. Obviously a great fight, fighting a much bigger guy, and he's got a great chin. He's still got it. It's not like oh, Usman's done and he should retire. He had a great fight tonight. So, I don't know. He's got to go home, rest, heal up, and figure out what's next.
Who do you think will be next against Strickland?
I don't think about that shit tonight. He just fought a great fight, looked good, and we'll go back to the lab on Tuesday and start kicking it around.
Kamaru Usman reacts after losing to Dricus Du Plessis. Kamaru Usman didn't agree with the judges' scorecard after his loss to DDP.
Yeah, it's it's tough. It's hard to be on this side of it, and I'm not used to being on this side. I hate to even bring up hearing that score or dealing with the score, because that's one thing that I kind of pattern myself is I never care about the score because I'm dominating. Yeah, I didn't like it, but it is what it is. I just couldn't necessarily get going. He was big, strong, he's rangy, so it was a little tough to get going. I took kind of like a thumb punch in the eye early on, and that kind of blurred the vision a bit, but no excuses. It is what it is.
Before we got to know what happened inside the octagon between Dricus Du Plessis and Kamaru Usman, the entire MMA community had different ideas about who would have been the winner of this fight. All former champs, some top fighters, coaches, and even analysts felt very confident and thought that they knew how it would happen for sure. So now, when we have already heard the official result, this is the perfect opportunity to go back to the predictions and learn who was right and who wasn't. Can we say that all the experts predicted the fight right or not? Islam Makhachev had felt that Dricus Du Plessis had an upper hand over Kamaru Usman in the fight. Although he knew the reason why Usman opted to move to the middleweight division, he did not know how effective this strategy would be against the champion. However, Makhachev noted that a win by Usman would immediately place him in title contention due to the fact that he won a bout against Sean Strickland previously. Despite this, he chose Du Plessis to be the one to complete the task, since his problems with the knee joints would hinder him from winning the match.
Вопрос, как профессионалу. Камару Усман, Дрикус Ду Плесsis завтра дерутся, кто выиграет?
Смотри, это что за Камару Усман, хитрый ход, оказывается, сделал. Я думал, зачем он наверх перешел. Выигрывает он Ду Плесsis, он становится контендером. Знаешь почему? Потому что он уже выигрывал Стрикленда. Из-за этого он решил рискнуть. Будет тяжелый бой. Будет пытаться, я думаю, бороться. Ты когда это выслушаешь?
Сегодня? Они завтра дерутся.
Ай, блин. Как думаете? Я думаю, честно сказать, Ду Плесsis выиграет.
Ду Плесsis?
Камару колени больные, бороться без остановки.
A similar prediction was made by MMA Guru in favor of Du Plessis winning the fight. While he acknowledged that the difficulties Du Plessis faced against Khamzat Chimaev were going to be a subject of debate, he did not think Usman could get complete control over him for the duration of 5 rounds like Chimaev did before. In his opinion, Usman would have stood a good chance if the match took place in 3 rounds, but given that it was going to be a 25-minute title fight, he thought that the former champion would falter.
Or something like that, but I'm still rooting for Dricus Du Plessis, and I think he beats Kamaru Usman here. I do. Now, there is, of course, going to be the narrative, and this is something that everyone's going to bring up when it comes to this matchup. Dricus Du Plessis got out-grappled by Khamzat Chimaev for 5 straight rounds, and he got held down by Khamzat Chimaev, and that's a big weakness in his game, and he can be out-grappled. Is Usman going to be able to out-grapple Dricus Du Plessis for 5 straight rounds? I would worry more for Dricus if this was a 3-round fight. Because I could see Usman securing 2. And then maybe the third Dricus does well, but it's not enough type of thing, But the fact that this is a 5-rounder, I don't think Usman's going to be able to survive 25 minutes in a cage fight with Dricus Du Plessis. That's what it comes down to. And I don't think he's going to submit Dricus. And I don't think he's going to KO Dricus Du Plessis.
MMA Guru continued his analysis, giving several reasons why he thought Du Plessis could find more ways to win the match. Firstly, he thought that the champion was stronger, faster, had better striking, and was younger than his opponent, who had accumulated much damage throughout his entire career. He predicted that the champion would focus on targeting Usman's legs using low kicks when the fight was standing, which would slowly wear out the former champion. In case Usman was capable of taking the champion down to the floor, he did not think that Usman could control Du Plessis like Khamzat Chimaev had done.
I think it's much less likely than Dricus Du Plessis finishing Usman. Far less likely, in fact. I think Dricus has got more power, better striking, he's got more youth, less wear and tear on the body. I think Dricus is going to target the legs, even though he could be taken down in this fight. I think he's going to work to land those low kicks as long as he is on the feet. And I don't think Usman's going to be able to pin Dricus down like Khamzat Chimaev did, because Chimaev did very control-orientated grappling, where he was around the waist up against the cage or in the crucifix position, and these are like positions you can't really escape. Whereas I think Usman is going to maybe try and have Dricus in full guard on bottom, and more jiu-jitsu friendly positions, I would say. And Dricus does have good jiu-jitsu, and he has good sweeps and rolls if you're there for that to work. I don't think Usman's going to be able to keep Dricus in half guard on bottom. I don't think he's going to be able to keep him on full guard on bottom or get the back of Dricus Du Plessis.
Moreover, Dominic Cruz also concentrated on the wrestling bout between the two men, only in a somewhat different way. Cruz thought the match would be won based on how successfully Usman was able to get Du Plessis down to the canvas. According to the expert, getting one takedown per round should be enough for Usman to win the match on the scorecards. At the same time, Cruz wondered if Usman had as much top control as elite grapplers such as Makhachev and Chimaev. Even though Cruz appreciated the wrestling abilities of Usman, he pointed out that there were not as many submission attempts when it came to the takedowns as with other grapplers.
I think that we're in a real clash of styles with Kamaru. If he can't take down the larger DDP because of the weight class thing that we've talked about now for the last couple fights, then he's in a hard fight with DDP on the feet.
I think one takedown per round wins him this fight.
Yes.
Because the lack of get up.
Yeah.
He's very strong.
It got exposed.
He's very strong.
It got exposed, huh?
But what? Yeah, he got blanketed, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what? You don't know any triangle armbar?
Well, this is where I see the difference, where we're going to find out. Khamzat has that same thing as Makhachev, where he's not just a wrestler with the folk style or freestyle wrestling or the Greco. He's the wrestler with the Sambo style. So after you get the takedown, you use your jiu-jitsu to look for submissions, back takes, arm bars, for rear naked choke. Wait a second. I'm just saying, this is why I think that I want to see if Kamaru can hold down DDP, because he doesn't have the same top game as a Makhachev or somebody with that nasty jiu-jitsu, and we're going to find out. I think he has a folk style.
Similar worries were voiced by John McCarthy regarding Usman's chances to wrestle effectively for 5 rounds. For instance, McCarthy had mentioned that Du Plessis had a special fighting style, which left him looking tired most of the time, but nevertheless, he managed to wrestle at an incredibly fast pace. He believed that it could be a serious threat to a senior Usman, particularly if the latter had to fight using his wrestling skills too much. Although he appreciated Usman's wrestling abilities, he thought that physically it would cost him a lot to constantly chase after takedowns. As McCarthy assumed that the match would end in the title rounds, he considered that fatigue would play an important role.
I love Kamaru Usman.
I hear a butt coming. I hear a butt.
There is a butt coming. In a 5-round fight, one of the things with DDP is he's awkward in the way that he approaches fights and the way he delivers things. But it looks like he gets tired, but he just keeps coming.
Yeah,
which is a real problem when you are going up in age like Kamaru Usman is. And he's going to end up having to wrestle. And the wrestling side, he's always been a good wrestler, but at this point in his career, that's what's going to get him tired. And I think going into the 3rd, 4th round, and I think the fight will go there, he's going to be tired at that point. And that's a bad place to be when you're fighting DDP.
Not all people shared the same opinion. For instance, Josh Thompson favored Usman, as he was sure his wrestling would prove crucial in the end. Although he admitted that the champion's awkward punches, powerful kicks, and calf kicks would make things difficult for Usman in the stand-up game, he did not see any signs that Du Plessis had become proficient enough to use it against his opponent's best asset. According to Thompson, wrestling was not something that one could learn in a few days, which is why he believed Usman's extensive grappling skills would allow him to win the bout.
Boxing, DDP's punches come from really weird angles. It's going to give Kamaru some problems. He's got some power. What he's got is really heavy kicks. DDP does. And if he gets started early on those calf kicks and leg kicks, but he's got to avoid the takedown in the process. So that can be dangerous. So I don't know. I'm going to lean towards Kamaru Usman based off of the sample size of the fact that, like, you can't learn how to wrestle in just 10 minutes.
While Thompson had believed Usman's wrestling would be the difference, Michael Chiesa highlighted one adjustment that could swing the fight in Du Plessis' favor. He expected the champion to attack Kamaru Usman's legs with low kicks in an effort to slow his movement and reduce the threat of his wrestling. At the same time, Chiesa warned that this approach came with significant risks, as throwing kicks against an elite wrestler could leave Du Plessis vulnerable to takedowns and sharp counters. Even so, he believed that if Du Plessis successfully compromised Usman's legs early, it could make the former champion far less effective as the fight wore on. Expanding on his prediction, Chiesa argued that Du Plessis would need to set up his kicks with punches rather than throw them naked against a wrestler of Usman's caliber. He expected the champion to pressure forward with aggressive blitzes before attacking the legs, forcing Usman to defend his hands first. Even if that strategy carried the risk of takedowns, Chiesa believed it was worth testing early and adjusting if necessary. Despite recognizing the danger Du Plessis posed, he ultimately sided with Usman. Chiesa believed the former champion's sharp jab, combined with his wrestling pedigree and veteran experience, would be enough to carry him to victory, even if he expected criticism for making that pick. Like Michael Chiesa, Belal Muhammad had also believed Usman's wrestling would be a major factor, but he wasn't convinced it would completely neutralize Du Plessis. He felt the champion's high guard could leave openings for Usman's trademark single-leg takedowns, making the wrestling exchanges especially important. However, Belal argued that many fans had written off Du Plessis' grappling too quickly after his loss to Chimaev. While he expected Usman to secure takedowns, he believed the middleweight champion's balance, scrambling ability, and willingness to fight off his back would make it much harder for the former welterweight king to keep him pinned to the canvas. Belal ultimately leaned toward Du Plessis, despite recognizing the danger Usman posed. He believed the fight could go either way, with Du Plessis capable of hurting Usman on the feet, while Usman had the tools to score takedowns and control stretches of the fight. In the end, though, Belal trusted the champion's relentless pressure, awkward style, and high-paced offense to make the difference. He also expected Du Plessis to defend the wrestling much better than he had in his previous outing and predicted Usman would begin to slow down in the championship rounds. That combination convinced Belal to pick Du Plessis to get his hand raised. So, who do you think got this one right, and whose prediction missed the mark? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more MMA news, fight breakdowns, and the latest updates.